Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to another episode of The Spread. I'm your host, Jim Stella, in studio with Jay Dash. Dash, we've only been in studio, twice together in the last month? It feels weird.
Thank God.
That's not very nice.
Well, I'm not a nice person. You know that, man.
Yeah, I guess. We're going to start our Steelers schedule segments. I don't know, whatever you want to call them. We're going to break each game down. Last year, the year before, we did the whole entire schedule as one episode, kind of rushed through it, made it real long. People didn't necessarily want to listen to it all. So we're going to break each one down about 10 or 12 minutes at the most, make it a little easier, pick and choose which one you want to listen to. We're going to bypass the preseason because nobody really cares. The biggest offseason news for Pittsburgh, the Martavis Bryant suspension, probably. He's out the whole year.
Sure, why not?
Dude,
I like Ladarius Green.
Keep smoking pot. Well, we'll get there.
You said the biggest news, right?
Well, that's the biggest offseason news.
I think Ladarius Green's bigger.
The biggest offseason signing is Ladarius Green, I think, obviously, because he's pretty much the only guy we signed that's even close to being a starter as far as free agency goes.
Well, you got the Harris, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, he might beat out Villanueva. Good point. And then you got the draft, I think, as far as Steeler fans go, we got an A+ with Hargrove and Davis and
Let's hope so.
Artie Burns.
Yeah, so, I thought the same thing when they drafted Mendenhall and Swede.
And Ziggy Hood. Ziggy Hood's garbage. Yeah, so Steeler fans are pumped up. They think the Steelers offense can average 30 points a game. Social media is a buzz. Twitter and the Facebook, everybody loves it. Everybody says it's so easy. We got all these weapons. It's not that easy. It's not. We have the weapons, but it's just not that easy. Only 2 teams did it last year. Do you think the Steelers can do it? I think they can. Do you think they will do it? Totally different question.
Yeah, I think they can. I don't think they will.
Me either.
That's pretty much it.
It's too hard in the cold weather and everything in Pittsburgh and late December
Pittsburgh
games.
field sucks. I don't think the offensive coordinator is a 30-point per game type of guy. So
we have the personnel and everything. I just don't. It's 27. Yeah, I mean 28. I think that's a much more attainable goal. But 30's a lot, and your defense has got to create a lot of turnovers, and we did that last year. Sometimes
and score points.
It's
as
hard.
Well.
It's hard to do that in back-to-back years. So that'll be a tough feat, but it's attainable, just not probable.
Let's get into this Washington Redskins.
The Redskins' biggest offseason news, they released RG3. He's RG garbage. He's an imposter. RG2 is the real RG number. RG2 is our Steelers insider. So RG3, you should be sued for stealing RG2's idea. Kirk Cousins gets franchised. He's now the number 1 guy, or at least was as of last year. He had a good year, played really well at home, especially down the stretch, played kind of shitty on the road. What do you think? Kirk Cousins, yay or nay?
I think he's still young. He had a good season. I think he can come out and have another good season. I mean, this offense is pretty much the exact same coming into the season, so they should be pretty well accustomed to each other and ready to go if they do things right here in the offseason. They
signed Jordan Reed to an extension. They drafted that wide receiver Josh Doxson, I think I'm saying that right. He's a guy who can spread the field. The big signing for them is on the defensive side of the football. You got Josh Norman, obviously, who was franchised by Carolina, then unfranchised.
And not to mention, their entire draft outside of that first-round pick there was pretty much all defense. I think their last-round pick was running back, but beside that, all defense. And, I mean, they really needed help on the defensive side, too. They were in the bottom of the league against the pass and against the run last season. They need to step that up. Not that their offense was great by any means. I mean, they were in the bottom half of the league in both passing and rushing as well.
They let Alfred Morris go, too, right? He's with the Cowboys now, I believe.
Yeah, Alfred Morris is not there. Matt Jones, though, I mean, he looked like a pretty decent running back at times last year. He's still a young guy, so I think he can step up and garner, well, he's going to have to step into a bigger role, obviously, but I think he can do that. And they have that, Chris Thompson out there as well that did pretty well in the passing game.
Yeah, when you have to give Kirk Cousins $20 million for 1 year because you franchise him, you kind of got to sacrifice something. And I think Alfred Morris, they would have liked to have him back, but I think he got around $4 million a year or $3.5 million a year. I just don't think they could afford it. This is going to be an interesting matchup. It's the opening game on Monday night for the year. It's not the opening game of the year. It's the 7 o'clock game. They always play the 2 games, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. Interesting that they picked the Redskins to play us, I guess because they won a division, and technically they were good last year if you go by those standards.
Made the playoffs, yeah.
Yeah, they made the playoffs. They were a really up and down team, so I don't really know what to expect. Is this game at home or at Washington?
This game is at Washington, man.
bunch of BS. We're way better than Washington. Should be opening at Heinz
So it's going to be
Field.
tough because, I mean,
Kirk Cousins is beast at home.
Yeah, he was good.
You like that?
He was good at home. The Steelers not quite as good on the road as they are at home over the past couple years, especially Big Ben. I mean, you can see it in his stats definitely that he is much better at home. So this could be a tough matchup for Pittsburgh, and I could definitely see them losing this game.
I'm interested to see the offense come out on the field because I believe Bell, Brown, and Roethlisberger only played somewhere between 50 and 60 snaps together last year. So
There's still a lot of time until...
Oh, yeah. I mean, Bell can get hurt. Anybody can get hurt. I mean, anything can happen. And I think that's the great thing about our offense. We have a lot of depth. I mean, even at wide receiver, losing Martavis Bryant, that's a blow. Don't get me wrong. Nobody's going to be able to do exactly what he did. But as a group, they might be able to step up, and adding Ladarius Green, he can stretch the field down the middle, so that definitely adds a dimension that they didn't have last year. Le'Veon Bell being 100%, I mean, he pretty much was for the season. It was towards the end more that he got hurt. Not the whole season, but for at least about half of it. And he was suspended early in the year, too. So to get all these guys out there together, to get Brown mentoring this young wide receiver group, I think it's going to be a close game. I'm not too worried about Washington's defense. I know you said they drafted heavy on the defense, but, I mean, it's a bunch of rookies.
Norman, so, I mean...
Norman...
They got to be getting better.
He'll play against Brown, obviously. He'll play okay, I guess. I mean, they played against each other last year.
No one can really stop Brown or anything, but, I mean... Who knows, too? Norman, I mean, it's not like this guy's been a big name for 5 years now.
He had one good year.
You never know. And when you go from one team to the next, it can really hurt a player, and especially a cornerback. I mean, we've seen it in the past where a corner looks great for one team, goes somewhere else, and then he just falls off the map. Now, it didn't happen to Reeves. It almost happened to him, actually. He was there, what was it, Tampa Bay? You almost forgot about him. Then he left there, and he picked it back up. But, I mean, that can really happen in the corner. So I do want to see what happens with Norman this season, see if he really is the beast that everyone believes he is.
Who's the other corner they got opposite him?
I don't know, man. We'll have to see. I guess it's a little bit too early to tell, but they did draft that Kendall Fuller in the 3rd round.
They signed Kerry Williams, too. He was all right early in his career, but he's definitely fell off the last couple of years compared to what he was playing. I believe it was Seattle.
I'm sure behind Norman, they're definitely not set at this point. They're definitely going to let some battles play out.
Yeah, whoever was number one last year, I'm sure could be number 2 this year, if they're still there. I don't follow the Redskins because nobody cares about them. Nobody cares about anything that happens in Washington, D.C. It's a bunch of crooks and criminals. So what do you think? I can't give you an official score prediction obvious keys to victory for Pittsburgh would be to run the ball well and play good defense, but that's the most generic thing you could say. But at this point, you don't really know how the team's going to shape up. Injuries could change everything.
Well, I think for the Redskins, I think they should come out passing. If I
sat down right now, should come out passing against Pittsburgh.
Maybe, but who knows? Their pass defense may be better this season, but it
can't get worse. It was 31st. Exactly, it could only get one team worse.
In the first game of the season, I mean, these young guys aren't going to be stepping in and making huge plays. Most likely, I would have, if they are great, but I mean, most likely it's not going to happen. So they may be a little bit vulnerable in the passing game to start the season at least. So I think the Redskins with Kirk Cousins still there getting his big contract, come out and pass the ball and show people why he deserved that contract, I guess.
Well, he only got a 1-year franchise deal. He didn't get the long-term deal yet.
Well, I mean,
$20 million in 1 year, though.
Do you even deserve that? Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, I thought he played pretty well last year, got him to the playoffs, so I guess you deserve it, but I don't know. That's a lot of money.
I think the Steelers will win the game just because their talent supersedes what Washington has. I think Roethlisberger is definitely a better quarterback than Cousins. I'm not a Cousins fan. He is at home where he played well last year, but I think now that he has a year of starting under his belt, teams have a year of film under their belt on him. They're going to know how to expose him a little more. He does have a lot of weapons around him to be successful, so if Jay Gruden puts him in the right position, he can play well. I don't think he can play well enough to beat Pittsburgh in this week 1. I think their defense takes a big step up this year with a lot of these young guys. No, I don't think they'll make huge plays like you're saying, but I know Keith Butler is dumbing down the defense a little bit as far as terminology and amount of plays so that the players can just be really good at what they do as opposed to having such a wide variety of what they do that other teams don't know what's coming. Because for young guys, that's too hard to learn. So I think Pittsburgh's young guys step up on defense. The guys, the veterans, they're savvy on offense. They score enough points, and I think they can win this football game. Not easily, though. It'll be a tough game.
And offensively, I just want to see which receiver steps up and see if he can last through the season.
Yeah, Wheaton had more catches in his last 6 games than his first 10, I believe. So he really needs to take a big step up with no Martavis Bryant. And Sammy Coates needs to be that downfield guy that Bryant was for us. We need to get the best of both worlds out of him. Wheaton needs to run after the catch. That's what we need him to be able to do. Catch the ball and gain an extra couple yards each time. And then if Coates can go deep, that'll at least alleviate some of that stress and not having big plays from Martavis. But that's it. That's all we got. Fans, any questions, comments, hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Hit me up on Twitter at betjimthewin. Always go to the Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. Keep coming back to YouTube and clicking subscribe. Dash informed me that we aren't going to be at episode 5,000. We're only going to be at episode 500. Apparently, my finance degree didn't pay off.